The revolution's begun. The time to stand up has come. We are the rocking of the throne. We are the rocking of the throne.
My name is Victor Tiffany. I'm the co-founder of Revolt Against Plutocracy, and today I'm going to be speaking with the congressional candidate in Nevada's second district. His name's Rick Shepard, and before I bring Rick on, I'll just go ahead and bring Rick on. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Outstanding. Glad to be here.
Great. I want to first, before I ask Rick any questions, I want to just speak to the voters in Nevada. Rick will give his website information here during the interview, and I'll place it below. So you don't have to write it down. You'll be able to just click on it. And if you're in Nevada, please go to his website and help him out. Especially if you're in his congressional district. Of course, every candidacy for Congress needs people going door to door. They need people making phone calls and all the rest of the stuff that goes into a successful campaign. But if you're somebody who is confined to the home, right, all you can do is work on a computer, but you want to help out with this campaign, you can help us help Rick, because we're doing the CFAR or else kind of strategy where we're working outside of the campaign. We can actually coordinate with the campaign because we're only going to do this online to supplement his ground game. So if you are confined to the house and you can work on a computer and you want to help Rick win his election, win his primary especially, contact or go to CFAR, C-F-A-R movement.us and sign up as a leverage activist or CFAR activist, and note what congressional district you're in, and we'll be in touch with you so we can work together and help Rick with his win his primary first. Rick, thanks for joining me. When is your primary?
It's in June.
It's in June. So first question then, or I guess now second question, how did you first find out about the CFAR contract?
You were being interviewed on somebody else's show, and I can't remember exactly which one it was because I watched several. I didn't know. There's a lot of progressive channels that I'm interested in, and you started talking about the CFAR. So I looked into it, and you are in lockstep with so many of the things that are important to my campaign and to Americans today. So I wanted to reach out and start a dialogue, and now we're here.
That's right. And basically, you've answered my next question. You signed it because you agree basically with the 11 issues that are laid out, the populist issues that are supported by large majorities of voters. Is there any one or two or three of those 11 issues that you find especially important that you'll be driving home during the primaries, and assuming you win the primaries in the general?
Absolutely, universal health care is critical. As much as climate change is a number one concern to me, because I appreciate that a planet that's hostile to human life demotes any other concern, really our environment is an extension of our health and well-being. So I connect the two quite intimately. So universal health care is a very big deal to me. I have a personal concern with it because I have a sick wife. My wife has progressive multiple sclerosis and other autoimmune disorders. And when she got sick, we recognized firsthand what it's like to be in that environment here in America. You know, this is a country that has 600,000 people a year that declare medical bankruptcy. And it's the only nation on earth that has this problem. And it's because we don't do a good job of taking care of our chronically ill.
Well, we have Obamacare. That's not good enough.
Obamacare was an imperfect step in the right direction. Ultimately, it came down to just being little more than forced insurance. While I do appreciate the idea that there's no lifetime caps, you can't be denied for pre-existing. Women's reproductive health was much better addressed. There were some movements forward with the ACA, but let us not forget that ultimately it was a Heritage Foundation creation that ran its way through Romney Care, then got filtered through some Republican Party issues, and ultimately what we got left with is watered down, is it's still for profit, and it is at least $1 trillion a year more expensive than what is necessary if the CBO score is to be appreciated.
So if you win your primary, there's no doubt that the Republican is going to come at you with a question something like, let's just start with Medicare for all. You're just a tax and spend liberal, aren't you? How are you going to pay for this?
Well, I'm going to pay for this by paying half as much as I'm already paying for this. By saving $1 trillion a year when we remove insurance premiums, when we remove profit motives, when we remove all of the private sector overhead, when we take it from the 22% overhead of current private sector down to the 2% overhead of Medicare, all of that translates into cost savings. Now, you can accuse me of being anything you'd like, tax and spend, who knows, maybe I'm guilty of that. But when it comes to Medicare for all, not only are we worth it, but the fact is when we do it right, it's going to cost us less.
So hopefully we'll save money in the process. There's another expensive item on the CFAR, which is, of course, transforming the energy sector. That's not going to be cheap. And the $1 trillion at least for the infrastructure. So how are you going to be paying for these massive programs when we already have $20 trillion in debt? Doesn't that worry you?
Not really. It doesn't, because if I'm going to save $1 trillion a year on Medicare for all, that makes it's just a lateral move to put that money into infrastructure, and so that's a zero as far as dollars go. And when we invest in infrastructure, we're investing in jobs here at home. We're investing in jobs that aren't being exported, that aren't being automated, that aren't low-wage service sector jobs. These are good-paying jobs, and if we do it right, we can rid ourselves of our dependence on not just foreign oil, but oil extraction. We can move over to renewables, lots of wind, lots of solar. We also can do biomass, gasification, geothermal. Those are fine. But ultimately, when we're going to take care of baseload energy needs, we need to go back to Oak Ridge National Labs in the 1960s and look at liquid fluoride thorium reactors. We can set up our world so that we no longer have to extract hydrocarbons from the ground, from anywhere on Earth. And once we're no longer worried about pulling oil out of the ground, we can stop pretending that those 7 wars overseas have anything to do with anything but that. And that'll save us $250 million a day.
I was going to ask you specifically about the CFAR policy position to pull out of Afghanistan. It doesn't seem like, while the American people are behind this, because that's how we chose those 11 items on the contract, it doesn't seem like members of Congress are very much in tune with pulling out of Afghanistan. Republicans, again, assuming you win your primary, Republicans are going to come after you for that, perhaps just calling you weak on national defense. How are we going to stabilize Afghanistan if we end up pulling out of that country?
We're going to leave and let the people that live there decide how to govern themselves, like we should have done in the first place. The problems in Afghanistan weren't created by us, but they're certainly exacerbated by our continued presence. We've never gone into a country and left it better than we found it. You can look at South America, as far as the CIA is concerned, that's just a bunch of baseball trading cards to them. They look at each nation like, need it, got it, need it. Talk about Pinochet if you want to talk about our respect for sovereign governments. We do nothing but rabble rouse and tear down in the interests of our own economic pursuits. And the sooner we get out of those countries that didn't ask us to be there in the first place and let the people that live there choose how to govern themselves, the sooner we'll get to the business of stopping the military-industrial complex, this war on terror, and the fomenting of hate and discontent all over the world.
You sound like a kind of universal nationalist, that all nations should be self-determining. Is that a fair analysis?
I believe that national sovereignty is the supreme rule. That's one of the biggest reasons why I was against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was that it surrendered national sovereignty to a body of corporate lawyers who could determine whether any of our laws or treaties were outside of corporate interests. And I'm unwilling to consider surrendering national sovereignty.
Well, of course, NAFTA also has that investor state dispute settlement chapter. And one of the clauses of the Contract for American Renewal would call for pulling out of CAFTA and NAFTA. Are you against trade in general, or do you, what is your position on trade? If you want to pull out of NAFTA, what would replace that in your view?
If we do this right, it's not so much that we're pulling out of trade agreements, because I believe international trade is not only the right thing to do, but it's necessary, especially if we are going to help other countries develop. We have got to have foreign trade. But to do so, we also have to protect the people who live here in America. The issue hasn't been that trade has boomed. That's not the problem. The issue has been that American jobs have evaporated and then been transformed into service sector jobs that are low paying. So if we can take care of the people here at home, and I'm a big fan of a universal basic income, that's where I would start with this. If we address that, then I'm fine with opening the doors to trade, because I'm no longer worried about that negatively impacting the well-being of the poor and the middle class in America. I got to take care of them first. Then we can worry about whether or not the item that's being traded or the country that we're trading with is a concern.
Universal basic income will pay a lot of people to do nothing, which on a certain level makes a lot of sense. But you're going to be accused of basically promoting laziness. How do you address that? Because there's certainly a criticism that would come your way, or the way of anybody supporting a universal basic income.
We've done universal basic income all over the world numerous times. It's been tested from Namibia to Finland, and each and every time it's been tested, they found that those fears did not bear out. The notion that people would be lazy or otherwise would respond in any negative way has been tested and found to not bear fruit. Here in America, we've had the Permanent Fund, which is effectively universal basic income, for 40 years. If you are a citizen of the state of Alaska, you receive a check every year just because you live in the state of Alaska. And that's been going on for 4 decades. And no one's accusing Alaskans of being lazy. There's no merit to that claim. It is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and it is baseless.
Well, I'm going to move to Alaska. One last question then, or basically give you an opportunity to tell the voters in the second congressional district. You got 2 other opponents, as I understand it, running against you in the primaries. Why would you think you'd be the better candidate among those 3 to take on the Republican in the general election?
I'm the most progressive candidate. I'm the one that occupied Wall Street. I'm also the one that brought down local law enforcement's bad behavior, resulting in the termination of our chief of police. I have a proven track record of serving my community in ways that are tangible and permanent. And you can imagine, if I can pull that off as a citizen, imagine what I'm going to be able to accomplish when I have the resources of the United States government at my aid. We have 2 other candidates that are in this race. They're both good guys. I like them both. If I don't win, I hope one of those 2 take him out, because Amedée is definitely the worst of the 4 of us. But if I thought either one of them was a better choice than me, I would back them. I'm not backing them. I'm backing me because I'm the better choice.
Well, we're backing you because we don't need to trust you. You've already laid it on the line. You've made a binding commitment to voters that no one else in this race has made, which, as far as we're concerned, trumps trust. Right? We don't need to trust you. We know, because you made this commitment and you've put it in black and white, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do in Congress. And that's something that you can use. In fact, how would you use that? How do you plan on using this contract now that you've signed it in order to gain attention to yourself, point out to voters that you've signed it, and hopefully garner support?
Well, obviously, good old cross promotion is a fun way to do grassroots. If I'm on board with what you're doing and you're on board with what I'm doing, obviously we promote each other. And the fact that you're out here gathering people that are like-minded it's a great form of cross-pollination. I've received donations from people in Alaska, or not in Florida and in Oregon, because they agree with what I'm doing, and so they've chipped in. And I've helped out with campaigns and candidates that were also in other states. And it's because of groups like yours. It's because of groups like Our Revolution and Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats. All of these bodies are working together to gather like-minded individuals and put them to task. And every single one of you is a huge piece of this. I'm grateful for it.
Where would people go if they want to help out with your campaign, either as a volunteer or with a donation?
Well, you can go to rickshepard.com, and from there you can read all about my issues, volunteer. You can send a donation, one time or recurring, whichever you like. I'm also available via ActBlue, but either is fine by me. there's more than enough opportunity to get involved with social media. Find me at, Rep Rick Shepard on Twitter, or Rick Shepard for Congress at Facebook. Those kinds of engagements online are just as effective at cross-promoting and cross-pollinating as we're doing now. As people share me to their friends, now I'm being introduced to people I didn't know, and that's how this works.
That's right. That's how it works in theory, and let's hope it does work out that way. Rick, thanks for joining me today, and best of luck to you in your candidacy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Revolt Against Plutocracy won't just be covering the news about the necessary revolution in the United States. Sometimes we'll be making the news. If you want to stay on top of the revolutionary actions and strategies of grassroots, genuine progressives, and our allies, please subscribe to our YouTube channel today.